Hey, welcome back to wolfpackdiscs YouTube channel. My gift to you is no awkward intro by Richard, but this is take two for me and Zach, so let's see how many times we can get through this before we actually record something. Zach, how you doing today?
Right. I had another great week. Two of
You
them
did
total.
you did have multiple great weeks, so you just happened to be in Europe, which was admitted your strategy, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that as we turn the sh screen share on and we take a look at what happened over this past weekend. Oh, look, just real quick while we stop in first place. Yep, that's still me. But more importantly, Zach, my friend, you're in ninth position now with a 60 and 70 record, chasing down Chris, who's still sneaking out a win here and there. But we'll
Yep.
scroll down. Your last 5 weeks, you got 12th place, 11th place, first place, 14th place, first place. That's a
Yeah.
pretty good spread there. This week you had some good players. You did switch up your lineup a little bit from Europe or from the
You did.
first European
Yep.
event. Here at the Ale Open presented by DIscraft, you swapped your second FPO, I see. You want to take a
Correct.
crack at that name?
Ida Nessie. I think that's what it is. I
Okay.
I can't pronounce English names, so my bad if I mess that up.
Yeah, well, if you happen to watch, Ida, Zach's a big fan of you. Jakob did well for you. Lori, as we all knew, was the great steal of the draft. Maury Villman came through with you. Danielle Davidson had some opportunities to even earn you more points. And Dennis
Oh.
Augustin takes you with a solid 250 points out of him.
Yep, he has played very well, and I think it was a Q series or an A tier he played with a couple weeks ago or before this one. Between the two European events, he did really well at. Took a top five finish there too, so I didn't want to change that position. I thought he'd do well here too, but I did change, as you mentioned, the FPO because Jenny is much younger and hasn't been proven on the tour long term. Ida did it more last year. She was middling pack then. She showed a really strong showing last event. I think she beat Jenny by a position. So I rode with her this time because I thought she might be a little more consistent. She was. Jenny was, I think, just outside of cash line for FPO, but still played pretty well.
Yeah, that cash line was harder to find. I think only two or three players finished under par completely on the FPO side. Three, that is. Thanks for the support there. FPO had an exciting ending or a final
It
couple
did.
holes. You can't
It did.
deny that interest for me at least. Just taking a quick look over at my score, I went 11 and 2 this week.
Hmm.
Vinyl t did well for me. Yavid Yarnis did well for me. And Itu, who kind of surprised me. He started off
It
the
did.
last day in, um, I think, like eighth, ninth position and
Hmm.
went down a little bit and then came back up and had what I would call a solid average round. But he kept the score going well for me.
Yep.
Overall, I guess what was your biggest storyline from the weekend? Was it Silva? Was it not Ricky and not Kristen? What do you think you saw was your biggest?
So I think there are three things that stuck out to me for this event particularly. Silva winning is huge because it's the same storyline that Mauri had for beating Antala at the last European event because he's won in infinity against Nicolas. And I think it was last year Nicolas had like a six-stroke charge in the rain to beat Mauri at an Elite Series in Europe last year, which was the big conversation. Mauri sailed through, finished this one, got his first win. So the first story in my mind was Mauri didn't come through here. He struggled early, played pretty well, but was never in the hunt, which I was looking to see if he would do that. He was my second lowest MPO guy. The second story I thought was Antela arguably being the favorite now in Europe. I mean, Ricky, every time he struggled, he came back with a birdie. He never let it just like spiral into horrible multiple holes of play. And Antela just kept buying his time. This felt like how he won in Texas too. I'm gonna keep it close, let you make a mistake, capitalize, and then watch you just not execute while I continue to do so. And it just felt like I wasn't surprised. I just wasn't surprised, which was felt really weird to watch that. So I think going into Worlds, future European events, I think we're going to see Antela continue to do that in Europe. He is the most winningest MPO this year with 3 events. I think Gannon has two and everyone else has one. So we'll see if that continues. And then I think the biggest story was Silva has the same story as Maori, right? 2 times beating Kristen all time. She's choked already once this year. Big, I think 3 strokes and 2 holes to lose to Kristen to finally get that off her back. We'll see if this propels her into really competing at elite level consistently. I mean, she may be pushing herself into a world title run right now with this kind of momentum. We'll have to see. We get 2 weeks off or 3 weeks off, excuse me, back to the United States, one women's event, and then back to Europe before we really see that kind of evolve again. But I mean, this really could be the makings of a superstar. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, we are gonna have to see. Last week we had a spirited conversation about our Mount Rushmore when it comes to FPO, and I would want to know maybe your top four, top five before Worlds, but we'll talk about Worlds another time as far as favorites go. You did throw
Mhm.
in that Nicolas has won 3 events already this year, and then I see you threw up in the chat? Does that make him, the favorite at Worlds? I don't know who the betting favorite would be. I'm not the Caesars Sportsbook or whatever. If I was going to make any odds up, don't know where you rank these two people, but Paul Macbeth and Niklas are pretty close to the same odds, no matter what you're looking at on that course. And I would really have to stretch an argument to find 3 players that are going to have a better odds to start that.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky is, I think, very focused on Worlds, which is why he's over there now and like
Mhm.
trying to get prep in Europe now. So he could be a contender because he has not historically performed super well long term there. He's had some great flashes, but never like Paul when he went over there just dominated, right? For like
Right.
a month and a half. It was
Yeah.
Paul, the big
Yeah.
beast is back, right? And so we do know that going into the Worlds, Paul should show up. We'll just have to see. I don't think Gannon will win a world title this year. He's not performed well in Europe historically. Even in his great run, he didn't perform super well in Europe. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I
Yeah.
I wouldn't put strong money on that.
Those are two that I thought if a casino came out with odds, those are two that I thought could beat Nicholas and Ricky. The third one is it's the crapshoot. Like who could it really be? It's what makes disc golf interesting. Like any
Yeah,
weekend, uh, you know, you could walk in tomorrow and say, the betting odds came out from Caesars and they put Simon Lizotte at the same odds as those guys. I'd be like, all right, like I see it. I don't know if
yeah.
that's but like if you told me Paul was plus 200 to win and Simon was like plus 1,400 to win, I'm like, well, I'll put a couple dollars on Simon just to see if that makes money.
You know what was actually add tidbit to your earlier question? One of the surprising things I saw from Ricky, which made me doubt his run, is the shot he struggled with the most in this event, which was the hyzer. He dominated the scramble forehand. I don't think he missed a scramble shot that I can think of off the top of my head. But there were several times it's like throw a hyzer into a gap, Scott split a couple of trees and landing in the fairway, and then you get your second shot. And multiple times over the course, threw it too long, gets a kick in the woods, and then scrambled. But it's like, why scramble? Like that should be your bread and butter. Blindfold him, throw it, it should land in the fairway. But honestly, I think there were 3 holes in the final round. If he had been clean on those 3 holes, he would have been leading going into the last hole rather than just, being behind what he was. But
Being
let
a
alone hole nine. But
participant.
we
Yeah.
might get to that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We might get to hole nine in a minute.
Yeah, so I'm gonna avoid your bait to talk about Hold Nine. I'm gonna move on to something else real quick. But
Okay.
Nicolas Antela,
Mhm.
it would be hard to not say he's the hottest player in the game right now on FPO or MPO side. He's just playing real well. Like I said, he'd be a top 5 favorite at Worlds. I think most sports books would have him. Where do you put him right now on all MPO? What would you say his ranking is in one subject? Putting inside of circle 2 or circle 1. Where do you think he ranks? I know we can go look at stats. I know we can go look at odds, but what's your eye test tell you? Is he a top 10? Is he a top 20? Is he top 50? Where do you think he falls against all the MPO people that you have consumed this year. So Europe and America.
Yep.
So,
Yep. 8 to 12.
okay, putting them in the 8 to 12 range. Okay.
Yep. I think, yep.
Is there a European that is ahead of him?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
Um, yeah, not that off the top of my head.
Because you gave me this home run to hit right in the group chat,
Uh-huh.
and the commentators have this weekend did not shy away from the fact, and I like
Hmm.
that. Sometimes one of the things I like
Yep.
about Europe is sometimes they're a little bit more direct. That makes me feel a little bit like I'm home on the East Coast. People just say
Yeah.
exactly what they mean, and they said, for lack of a better way to put it, I'm gonna interpret this in Brian's language, but um,
Hmm.
they said, "Hey, a couple guys really good at throwing the frisbee. Maybe top percentile talent throwing a frisbee. Really suck around the green." They basically said that, for lack of a
Yeah.
better way to put it. Um,
Correct.
does that is that a pattern? Or is it because the top end throwers are so good, it's noticeable when you think of the gentleman that they brought up, Davidson, Yona, but then you look at the
Hmm.
history with Evelina and Henna.
Yep.
Is it because we draw so much attention to their distance that it looks like such an opposite? Or is it something to do in general, do you think?
No, so this is a great question. I think it's because of course design. I think in order to be successful in Europe, you have to lace lines and get maximum distance that you can. We saw, what was it, Davidson multiple times come up short on a hole that needs to throw a turnover on, but knowing the layout said, okay, now I'm going to throw a huge hyzer into this gap, get myself a putt. Three putt, took his par, went on. I think in order, like just course design that I'm thinking about, you need to be really clean off the tee. You need to be in your landing zones. The putting isn't the focal point because if you can't get on the green, it doesn't matter anyway. Well, I think in the United States, when you think about especially courses like 2018 forward, you think of Las Vegas, you think of Waco, courses that have a lot of wind and distance to it. You have to get off the tee. Everyone gets in circle because there's not as much obstruction or the gaps are, I would say, even friendlier or like not as tight. That whoever gets to be the best putter gets to compete. That's why we see Marweed adds a little distance to his game. Now he's competing. Now he's in the top five at a major run. That's why he's in the top 10 conversation. He's always top 25, right? Because his putting, he's just added the distance to get there. Now he puts well. So I think the United States game has emphasized that putting is the separator. You can throw 500, I can throw 500. There's not a lot to block us. Who gets to putt the better? Calvin shredded in his run, right, when he putted out of his mind. Ricky had his run, putted out of his mind. Gannon had his run, putted out of his mind. I don't think we've seen as many European runs really come off of being, hey, I putted insane, but didn't get off the tee. They all had to get off the tee even to be in the conversation. So I think that's part of the focus in that development and the course design that we're seeing in Europe.
Yeah, the course design I think has a lot to do with it. I think the commentators made reference like 90% of Sweden's courses are considered wooded.
Hmm.
And I would assume that pattern is probably similar in other Scandinavian countries where we see a lot of disc golfers coming from. And if you think of, a lot of American courses, especially what we would call beginner courses, like what we would take our friends who don't play to, you can get that stock wide right hand hyzer out on a lot of holes. There isn't a ton of enforcement when we think of developmental courses. Now, that being said, most of my favorite courses in the US are super wooded. So,
Me too. Big
yeah,
fan.
they're
Ashimo, big shout out.
yeah, hey, I throw more patent pending shots at Oshimo than I do any other course in Michigan. That's what I've known. So we have a small crew tonight, so I'm not gonna beat a horse to death, but I will give you an opportunity to talk about hole nine because I think we're gonna end up on opposite ends of this argument. So I don't know. We haven't pre-screened this. We don't have a producer. We just make the stuff up as we go along. But hole nine had
Hmm.
a turtleback green, an elevated natural basket, a mogul with a pole. However you want to phrase it, had definitely a difficult green. We saw maybe the change of the event on Sunday for MPO happened on that hole. Um, So I'm going to only propose this question to you in one way. Are you ready?
Hmm.
What's better for the disc golf entertainment value, you and me?
Hmm. Hmm.
The American style elevated basket plastered with some sort of advertisement
The
for disc
pyramid.
golf. Yes, a pyramid
Hmm.
made by
Hmm.
Paragon Disc Golf, most likely.
Hmm.
We think they're beautiful.
Hmm.
Um, but that or the natural, shall we say, elevated basket that we've seen in multiple different European courses on coverage. What's better for you and me in the entertainment value?
So I think I can answer this with a fairly easy question retort.
Okay.
Um, so the World Championships, where we saw some of the most abysmal rollaways of all time, was one of the most entertaining tournaments I've ever watched, including the rollaway down the hill that either rolled them OB on that like big up and down hill
Yep.
or rolled them into a perfect spot for the easiest upshot of all time. It's natural, it's not artificial, so it's harder to argue. And it causes stroke swings. I think you can't do it all the time. If you do it on every hole, it's gimmicky, right? Because it's just too much. But having one hole like nine did, and seeing Ricky just double or triple bogey that hole after dominating, it felt like okay, he's got his three-stroke win. He's gonna just keep birdieing out he until he doesn't have holes. To all of a sudden, one-stroke lead. I was getting ready to pause it, walk away, cook lunch. Now I'm like, sorry, honey, like I'm locked. Like I'm
Yep.
watching this now, right? I did the same thing at Worlds. I didn't care about James Proctor at all as per terms of competition. I watched James Proctor roll away happen, and I'm like, I'm watching this highlight. I'm watching the reel. I'm sharing this with people. Look how brutal this was. I'm listening to people complain about it, and I'm like, I don't care. It's entertaining. Like that's what I want. I get that players might not love it. I, as a player who have experienced Johnson Park, understand that. But entertainment wise, having one of those holes not be the last hole, but having it be one of the holes in the course, I think is totally fine. I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was excellent drama. Happened on the calmest day, for goodness sakes. I loved it.
Well, I've been watching too much of the television show Suits lately, finishing that one up. And hey, you didn't answer the question. So the question was, from an entertainment value, what is better for an elevated basket,
Oh,
the manufactured thing or the natural
the
or
natural,
man-made but natural base
the
of a
natural.
mold? Okay, because you referenced two great baskets that were just put on sides of hills. So it's hard
So
for me to pick.
sure. So like the whole nine here is on a hill. It's not elevated.
Yeah.
Both those holes I referenced at Worlds are also not elevated. They're just
Okay.
on very, very steep hills. So is the fairway of one of those holes. The the elevated thing, which we've seen all over the place. We just watched an event that has a 8 foot elevated basket or whatever it is on that. It let me say it this way. It is a harsh attempt to up a hole's difficulty without changing the hole. While if you put it on the side of a hill, it's more likely that it's part of the complexity of the hole, not an added gimmick to make the hole harder, right? Just obscurely by saying it's now in the air. And so I like it's just like a toboggan, whatever, hole 12, the one that goes uphill that Calvin aced. Nope, eagle, that's the word. I think that hole's good, even though it sits on a very slanted green. It gets some rollaways, not a lot. I think it's a better hole. If you had said, "Hey, leave it in the pin in the old position, put an 8 foot elevated basket on it," I don't think it's a better hole. I don't think it's a
Well,
more evolved hole.
well, here's what I know. Zach loves a basket on the side of a hill. Wants you to roll away because it's more entertaining for him.
It
And
is.
I would put natural moguls throughout a whole entire course. I would make a par five that's 1,000 foot of moguls, so you couldn't even take a run up. I think it's great. I think they're wonderful. I want elevation. I want brick walls halfway through courses. I want things that I want wooden. I want the mozzarella sticks that we all hated at USDGC, but I want them thoroughly done in the correct way. In fact, I will tell you my ultimate goal. You know, I win the lotto tomorrow. I build the most biggest, baddest course ever, which by the way wouldn't be a pro tour course. It'd be a course for 900 rated players because
Us.
that's
Yeah.
what we have a majority of those. I'm not gonna build it
Yeah.
for like 10 dudes a year to play. Hell yeah, no. Um, but I would buy a outdoor hockey rink, okay? Full on walls and everything. And I
Uh-huh.
would take off below the goal line on one side. And you would tee from that side. So you'd be teeing into the goal, into the arena, if you will.
Uh-huh.
And I would plant like four giant maples, like every 20 feet, but oscillating sides. And I'd have the walls of glass still up. And you could sit and watch your buddies just shank them into trees while drinking a beer. Wouldn't you absolutely love that? Sitting behind the glass, you'd be banging on it when they miss a putt. You can't tell me you wouldn't want to get 10 dudes together and just harass a whole bunch of people for a weekend. That would be
It
epic.
makes me it makes me think of the preserve. Was a
Yeah.
hole 17 or whatever? Like again, a hole that should be easily birdied. And when it go happened to Kyle, right? When it goes bad hard. And from the viewer, I was sad for Kyle. I'm a Michigan guy, but
Yeah.
as the viewer, I know that people were interested more often because all of a sudden things were swinging. So I agree. I think it's entertaining.
Well, it is entertaining. And we've maybe been entertaining Zach tonight. I'm not sure, but we'd like to thank you for stopping by. Remember to hit that like or subscribe button. Head over to Zach's channel, Crew 42. Hit that like or subscribe on Zach as well. Follow him on Instagram, which we'll link below like we do every week. In the meantime, Zach, we're going to be in America for a few weeks. Watch out. We'll see what happens.
Can't wait to go 2-11.